There we go. So, welcome to Golden Rods and Reels fly tying after a bit of a Christmas hiatus. I haven't had a chance to talk to Florin, so it's just me tying today. And I'm going to do two patterns. Uh, it's early season here in Victoria, for those of you who are in Edmonton or elsewhere. Um, so I figured we would do something fairly early season fishing around here. Uh, and one of the patterns I searched up was this guy here as an early season, early season large nymph to fish the local lakes as they start to produce nymphs, and it's called a prince-ish nymph, which means it's a little bit like a prince nymph. Well, basically, it's just the biots that make it a prince nymph. Uh, but I figured I'd show the background fly, which for me, having grown up in Alberta and having fished a lot of streams in Alberta, the Prince Nymph was one of those go-to flies we used all the time and a very productive pattern. So I figured I'd start off with that pattern. And so the basic pattern for a Prince Nymph, we use basically a wet fly hook, moderate shank, because you got to make room for a bead to get the thing to sit down on the bottom. Pardon me. And so if this is a size 10, you can tie them a little bigger or a little bit smaller. And then I've got a little box of beads here. So I'm going to use one of these gold beads, these gold beads down here. You want to get some weight on the fly. So in addition to the gold bead, we're going to put a little bit of lead wire on the hook, just as a additional incentive for the fly to get to the bottom. So I preloaded this hook with a bead, and this is one that has the round, slightly wider back at the front of the bead, and you put the narrow hole at the front. And what that permits you to do, there's this little gap in the back of the bead that when you put the lead wire on, you can jam it up in there to keep the bead at the front. And I've got a box of lead wire, so I'm going to take a little bit of O2O lead, and we'll start. And pardon me, I'm going to use my magnifier a little bit because I had some vision issues the last little while. So what I'm going to do is start at the back, and I'm going to put 3 or 4 wraps of lead wire on. And when I get about 3 or 4 wraps and snug them up to each other, then I'm going to get my fingernails down in there and snip off with my fingernails the front end of the wire and make sure it's mashed down against the shank, nice and snug. And then I'm going to shove that shove that up into the little hollow at the back of the bead so that this stuff stays nice and tight to the front of the hook. Don't want it sliding back to the back. And just crunch down the last of the lead there. Thread is black 8/0 just to tie everything down. And that little tab of my little tab of lead hasn't gone where I want. So just take my pliers and see if I can mash it down onto the shank of the hook. Get it into the bead. There we go. That's more like it. So I'm just going to put a little thread on the back to keep that at the front of the hook. The whole part of this is to get this thing to sink like a stone to the very bottom of the water, bounce along the bottom. And then I'll just cover the shank with thread all the way to the back. And when I get back to where the point used to be, or would have been if I had a point on this particular style of hook, and I'll build a little flat spot of thread, and then bring the thread up to the middle of that flat spot. This is where I'm going to attach the biots for the back of the fly. And biots are off of a goose feather on the short side of the feather. And so what I'm going to do is just tear off a couple of these. One, two. And you see they have a nice little curve to them. And what I'll do is I want the biots out the back to be about from the bead back to the bend in the shank long, sticking out the back. And I'm going to hold that on top of the hook at a 45-degree angle to the shank and do a quick wrap over the top. And just not to tighten it yet. What I need to do is just adjust the position and the length to get it to sit right at that 45-degree angle. Come on, it's not cooperating this morning. Let's try another one. That one's a little fragile. Okay. Get that on there. 45. And then I'll just tie it down to get the butt end out of the way. Oh man, I'm really struggling this morning. Forgive me. I've been having vision issues lately. Spending more time than I need with the ophthalmologist. So get the thread positioned, sit it on top at the right angle, and do a wrap. Pinch wrap over top. Come on. There we go. Now position it on top. Get a proper wrap on it. There we go. That's where I get it. I'll get another one and put one on this side of the hook with the tail at a 45-degree angle on this side, about the same length, same place. Hold it down with my thumb and tie that on. And adjust that one for position. I am really struggling with this morning.
Yeah, they can be kind of fickle, biots.
Yeah, I did two or three of these the other day. And it's just for some reason these particular biots are being ornery.
I don't know how many hundreds of prince nymphs I've done over the years, right? But probably 1,000.
Yeah.
The biots always fight you.
Yeah. And sometimes what you got to do is get the thread in behind it.
Yeah.
And that will cock it over to the side. Like that. I'll get another one on the near side and we should be okay. I have not the problem on the front. I seem to be able to get the front ones to stay on at the right angle. It's the rear one because you're working on that thin piece of hook with thread on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just don't want to sit down.
Yeah, I think the only feather worse is probably jungle cock feathers.
There we go. Got it. They're a little long, but hell, I'll leave it at that.
Your hook's a standard length wet fly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's a little bit longer shank.
What the heck? It's just come out of that. Part of this is, like I said to Al in the email, that I've been having problems with my eyes, and it's a result of getting old. And I was diagnosed recently with glaucoma, which is high blood pressure, high pressure in the eye. That can be quite serious if it's untreated. You stop getting nutrients to the retina, and you can lose your sight. So I've been in at the ophthalmologist getting examined and treated, and the treatment is drops that lower the pressure in your eye. And when it does that, it irritates the eye as well. So
Really?
my near vision has been a little bit of an issue the last little while. Hell with this.
Well, you should take up. Isn't smoking dope good for you?
I need to do something. Like that would be a good idea, I suspect. I don't know.
Isn't that a treatment? I had a neighbor that had glaucoma.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, her backyard she would sit out on her deck, right? In nice
Oh
weather,
yeah.
blow
Well,
a doobie, right?
well now I get two different kinds of drops because one eye was worse than the other. And so I have one set of drops I put in the evening and in the morning in the one eye, twice a day. And in the other eye, I get to put them in just in the evening, but it goes in both eyes. So I have two sets of drops. Now, I was in the other day because I was having some, oh, good Lord. I think it's the Biots. I've got these. I had trouble finding a dark Biot, a dark brown Biot. And these ones are pretty fragile. So I don't know what it is. But the minute I try to wrap the Biot on, it wraps around the hook. It doesn't stick out the back like it's supposed to.
Lick the Biot and it'll stick.
Maybe. Jeepers. I can't see.
Try licking it, then it won't roll.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that'll probably do it. Just got to get it turned the right way. There we go. Okay, now stay there.
Our neighbor used to smoke weed all the time, eh? I remember
There.
we were out having a fire in the backyard one time, right? And the backyard just reeked of it, eh? And my pre high school kid comes out and says, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing smoking dope?" And this is before it was legal, right?
Yeah.
And so you could hear the sliding door open at the neighbor's house, right? And she would go into the house, but she had the prescription for it.
Yeah. I'm about ready to say piss off on this thing because it's just these particular Biots are just not cooperating. And I'm not sure why. They're different ones from the ones I was doing earlier. And there we go. Stay there. Stay there. Hooray. There we go. More or less. Meanwhile, my wife is running around here because we have an open house this afternoon, about 5 o'clock, having all the neighbors over. So she's busy.
Well, that'll keep you busy.
I am about to say piss on this because these Biots just are not working. There we go. There we go. Hooray. I said for the third time. Okay. Next. is a rib, small piece of silver wire. Hopefully the other one will go a little smoother. Yeah, so in addition to the glaucoma, the ophthalmologist wants to send me into a retinal specialist because I've had a lot of floaters floating around in my eye, which disturbs your vision as well. You say the joys of getting old.
Yeah.
Because that's what floaters are. That's the protein in the vitreous starting to coagulate. And if you're a lifelong short-sighted guy like me, that's pretty common. Okay. Next is body. And for body, just use Peacock though. For this guy. And to make it nice and easy, I'll get 3 strands. And this is long, skinny stuff, so I could probably have used better Peacock Herl than this because, but it just so happened I had some fairly fine stuff that is long enough that I could get it on the whole body of the fly with an extra to begin. So now, just
I'm going to take off early today. I got something come up here, so I've got to leave, but I'll join you next time around.
Okay.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you, Dick.
See you guys.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, now I got my Peacock Herl attached. I'll wind that right back to where the Biots are. Then bring my thread forward. And then the easy way here is I just twist it into a rope.
Yeah.
And then just go around the shank enough times to give a fuzzy body, trying to avoid the hook point as we do it. If I twist the Peacock Herl counterclockwise, it doesn't unravel on me as I wind it forward. There we go. Now we're getting a nice long fuzzy body. And when we get right up behind the bead, I'm not going to put too many wraps there because I want a little bit of room to tie down the other biot. So tie that there. There we go. Peacock Herl's on. And then I'll counter wrap the wire up the shank of the hook. And I don't need more than 3 or 4 wraps, just something to give it some segmentation. When I get up to the front, I will come over the wire a couple of times and under the wire once. Let it hang. And then we'll get in here and just see if we can helicopter the end of that wire off. Come on. No, it's not doing it, so it'll be snip time. Sometimes that breaks up really easy. Okay. And then the last one And I think it's going to be easier because these biots are, these white biots are a little nicer. They're a little stiffer. And when I was looking for brown biots, I couldn't find a short brown one, which is why the trouble at the back end of this fly. So again, I'll just lay that at a 45-degree angle and about shank length, right behind the bead. Put my thumb down on top and tie down right behind the bead at an angle to the side. Then I'll take the second one and I'll put it in the same place and try to make it the same length. Hold it down with my finger and tie it down onto it, right behind the bead, and just give them a little tug to the side. It's just a little bit too far forward. The place is being ornery today too. There we go. Let's see what I'm doing.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Get them the right lengths and the right angles. Couple of wraps right on top. Bring the butts up. Couple of wraps in front just to tidy them out. And then push them back and trim them down as tight to that bead as I can get. What the hell? There we go. Stay there.
I couldn't find my white buyouts, so I'm using brown ones.
You know, the stupid thing is I did 2 of these patterns during the week and it was absolutely no problem. And darn if it, for some reason, struggling now. There we go. I just make sure I stitch them down really good. Well, that's pretty ugly.
Yeah, that'll work. So who else is on besides us?
Let me just get this and I'll look. And then I'll show you the pretty one. Okay, enough of that.
What's Florin doing today? Is he out traveling?
I haven't talked to him for a couple of weeks. He's been back in Edmonton. He has some work commitments left with the university.
Oh, what's he doing at the university?
He's a lecturer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's the good one.
Yeah, it's a killer pattern, eh?
Yeah, it's an excellent pattern. And let me see, I've got
Can you put a throat on it or just leave it like it is?
a float?
No, a throat.
Throat, no. I just finish it that way.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a fairly short shanked hook.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room on there for anything other than the basic fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Now this one hopefully will be a little easier to play with because they only have one set of biots this one, and they're big. So, okay, so here's the pinch-ish. In other words, it looks a little bit like a pinch. And it's a different shape of pattern. The only thing that's pinch-like of it is the biots, I think. Okay, so the on this one, the hook is a much longer shank hook. This is a 2312 TM. It's a curved nip hook, and it's not intended to be bounced along the bottom. It's intended to be trolled with a sinking line behind your boat, fairly deep at this time of year. So we'll put that in the vise, and you can have a good look at that. I'm just going to, yes, we're not going to see, you can see the fly better. Okay. All right, so for this one, I'm using a pattern called for a reddish brown thread, but I want the color difference to show. So I've got kind of an orange thread, and I'm just going to tie on at the front enough to kind of put the bead in place and keep it from getting back on the hook shank. Everything's kind of a little disorder today because we do have about 20 people coming over after this afternoon.
Yeah, you're gonna be busy.
Well, we have an interest where we live. It's a small neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac, and we have what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 10 homes in the cul-de-sac, and then another couple. So we got about 12 homes on the cul-de-sac, and there's really nothing else around us. So people have been here. Some of them have been here for a long time, like 10 years or 15 years, like us. This is the house that my father-in-law moved into when he retired.
Oh, okay.
And we've had it for, I think, 13 years. We bought it from them when they moved into the seniors place. And my daughter was here when she was going to UVic to get her first degree. Her and Bart and Zach were here for 3 years, and then we had students in it for a year, and then we did a bunch of renos and moved in 11 years ago, I guess. So you get to know everybody in the culture, and you keep in touch with each other because it kind of isolated from the rest of the neighborhoods around. So you look out for each other.
Yeah.
And like the neighbor across the street, she was off in Hawaii for 2 weeks, so we were looking after her house while she was gone, make sure it was safe and being unoccupied. And the one house that's just 2 doors down on the far side of the street, the lady moved in to. The first lady that was in there was quite well known in Victoria. She ran a flower shop in downtown Victoria for many years. And she was the one who came up with the idea of the Christmas flower count. She was on the Chamber of Commerce, and she did a TV show, first person to do a TV show on Czech TV, first woman. Quite the pistol. Well, she died a couple of years back, and at 98. She was our model for aging in place, I guess you could say. But the lady that bought her place was in the process of doing renos. And she had cancer and died last year.
That's too bad.
So her son is in that place now. They're trying to sell it, but house prices have just not cratered enough to make it worthwhile so far. So it's still for sale. But her son will come over and visit. And then there was an elder lady down in the corner of the cul-de-sac who has just moved into a senior's place and sold off her house. So we have new neighbors there, and they're from Kelowna, retired. She's a professional cellist. And he's a pianist. I don't know what he did in his regular life, but they did a really nice job of renovation on the house. They got this giant grand piano in the middle of their house.
Oh, wow.
Really quite striking. And he plays well. So now, the body of this thing is going to be, the tail is simply black hackle, and just get enough fibers to give a little tail that's about a little less than shank length long out the back. And that's just to add a bit of pizzazz to the fly, I think. The body of the fly, it's supposedly a mixed dubbing, and I'm using a product from Robinson's that is Arizona black, which means it's a mixture of brown and black, and it's a synthetic seal, Simi-Seal.
Yeah, that stuff is nice.
And it's really quite nice, and it's just a little bit hard to get it to dub on properly. So what I'm going to do with this is I will come up and make sure I start right by the tail beginning.
Does it have a rib, Dave?
Beg your pardon?
Does it have a rib?
This one? No.
Yeah.
The
No,
rib
okay.
is just what the thread is, which is
Okay.
it's just enough to bind it down.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a decent sized dubbing loop. And get my thread up here out of the way. Bobbin rest. So it kind of gets out of the way. And then a little bit of dubbing wax on the loop. I don't know if you guys can see the loop very well on the screen here. And it's a pretty long loop. So I want to get the dubbing spread out on there pretty well. And this stuff is really tricky. It's long fibered, and it sticks to itself really quite well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out in little chunks and slide it into the dubbing loop up to the front. And I'm going to try and control, when I put this in, how much spreads out on either side of the dubbing loop. The goal of this is to try to create a dubbed body that's a little bit tapered. So as I get the dubbing up in the loop here to keep it, that's partly why I'm using wax, is to keep the dubbing in place. I need to just tug on the dubbing spinner a little bit to close the loop so the dubbing doesn't fall out as I'm doing it. The idea is to try to build a little bit of a tapered rope here. So as I get down further and further, I'm going to leave more dubbing sticking out on the sides. Pull on it a bit, and then just any really long stuff that sticks out, if I pull on the spinner, it closes the loop up a bit and allows me to pull the excess stuff off the sides and shove it up. This is into the loop. This is intent is to try and, as I say, build a little bit of taper into the dubbing rope. And the easiest way to do it is take your time and open and close the loop as you put the stuff in it so it doesn't fall out. So again, pulling little clumps out, slide them up the loop.
What wax do you like using?
I've had this stuff for quite some time. It's a professional fly tying dubbing wax.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's an old one, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I've had it for ages, and it works for what I want. And the amount of dubbed flies I use. Come on. Okay. Come on, get in the loop. A little more. So it looks like I'm using a lot of dubbing, but this stuff is fairly spiky. It doesn't clump together really well. So it looks more untidy than it really is when I'm done. And I'm going to trim this to a shape as well when I'm finished.
Oh, okay.
So, and some of the stuff I'll pull a little extra long stuff up that's up here closer to the hook. So now that I got it, I'm gonna just take a little bit out of there and spin the daylight out of this. So I'm just fluffing out of it now that I've got it spun. And
I'll be right back.
hey,
I'll be right back.
yep. And then I'm going to do a little wrap the body up the shank and it trying to make it a little more wrap over top of wrap as I get closer to the front of the hook. So it makes for a very untidy fly to begin with. And I'm making it tapered so that it's wider at the front than it is at the back. And then when I get up right to where the bead is, I'll stop there and hold my dubbing rope up behind the bead, and then wrap it front. My scissors and trim off the dubbing loop. Now, at this point, to make life a whole bunch easier, I'm going to finish off my thread for the moment. I'm going to have to reattach later, but I'm going to just finish that off.
There you go.
Okay. Take my nice straight scissors and I'll fluff it out a bit. And then I'm going to take my scissors and at an angle, I'm going to trim this back. Don't want to trim off the tail. And I'm going to trim all the way up the shank of the hook. So it's wider at the front and skinny at the back. The trick is to not trim the tail.
Yeah, that would be a bugger.
Then you have to start all over. There we go. And so I want to make sure I've got nothing around the point of the hook because I want that to be accessible by fish teeth. And like I say, just trim it a little bit down so that's part of the problem with this is that, again, using this synthetic seal, the whole idea is to get that synthetic seal to grab air and leave it looking alive, but not too mushy. And with the synthetic seal, it's really hard to control the width of the dubbing loop as you're putting it in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to trim after. So it takes a little time to tie, but it makes a nice shape. So you can see we got a fairly robust thorax and a reasonably skin body towards the back. That's not bad. Okay. Now, back in with the thread right behind the bead. And then I'm going to give it a bit of a collar. And the collar is just a short piece of Mallard Flank. And Mallard Flank has got a curve to it, so I'm just going to take my thumbnail and flatten out the curve a bit because I want to get this wrapped around the shank behind the eye of the hook. I want to get this in the right spot. And I don't want it too long, so I want the Mallard Flank to be about the length of the shank of the hook. Maybe just a little shorter. By doing that, that controls the length of the mallard shank fibers that are going to wrap around the hook. And then I will hold the very tip and stroke all of this mallard flank forward. Like that. Except for the very tip. And I don't need a whole bunch. And then I will tie this in by the tip. Like that. Tied in by the tip. Half in front. And just make sure I got that locked in there. And then trim off the excess at the front. And then with my hackle pliers, I will grab that Mallard Flank and I will fold it as I wrap around the hook shank. And I'll be lucky if I get 2 wraps. And then I'll tie it off. Stem. And I'm just going to spread those Mallard Flank fibers around the shank of the hook. And you can see there's a few more on the bottom than on the top. Just because of the way I wrapped it by keeping it short and getting it wrapped nicely around the hook. So now we have kind of a shrouded thorax on that thing. And now the last bit is the white Goose Biots. And I will take, this is what gives it the Prince-ish character. And I want them long. I want them almost shank length long. And I'll put one down on that side, on the top at an angle away from me. And then I'll get another one. These are going down easier. The other side, 45-degree angle on top of the hook. And place that. Get the length adjusted about right. Get over there. Got to get the curve the right way. There we go. And hold it down to wrap behind the bead. And when I've got them cinched, you can see they make that nice V right on top of the hook shank. Bring up the butts so that I can get a good couple of solid wraps in front. And that so they stick up. And then I'll come in here and trim those little butts of the shank, mallet, the Biots down. And then right behind the bead, I'll put a nice red collar over top of the last of the Biots. Sort of a red hot spot right there. And then, whip finish. And the last little bit, it's pretty straightforward. A little bit of glue. And that'll make sure those guys don't pull out. So those Biots went a lot easier. And that's it. Nice fuzzy nymph with a bit of bulk that's going to catch water, a little bit flashy material. It'll work well fished fairly deep in the lakes around here. Now we'll remove the speaker view, go to gallery view, so I can see all you guys. And that's it. So I'm just gonna stop recording.